Nissan is cutting production in the United States, and there's a very good reason for this. The reason is that Nissan is in trouble, of course, but aside from that reality, so are Nissan's dealerships. Nissan's dealerships are overloaded with cars that are just not selling. Hello friends, welcome to the channel. I'm Sam Evans, you're watching the Electric Viking. I reported a few days ago that a Nissan executive says the company has 12 to 14 months to survive unless they are bailed out by an investor. Now, Fisker said similar things, right? And then Fisker said Nissan was going to bail them out. And I could not believe the insanity of that claim because Nissan needs to bail itself out. It was so illogical. The mainstream media reported on this, and none of them actually mentioned the fact that Nissan's debt is rated at junk. Nissan was in massive trouble itself. How the freak was Nissan going to bail out Fisker? It was just a physical impossibility. But there was literally thousands of articles from the mainstream media claiming that that was going to happen. I believe I was the only person who said that that was utterly nonsensical and ridiculous. Now Nissan has confirmed that it is cutting production worldwide by 20%. It is firing a huge number of its staff, around 10,000 staff. It is essentially trying to give retirement packages to thousands of staff in the United States. It's cutting production in both China and the US. And well, all of this leads us to one thing. That is, without a multi-billion-dollar loan from an angel investor, which seems incredibly unlikely to me, Nissan will no longer be able to pay its debt repayments. This is very real. Almost every automaker has debt repayments to pay. And Nissan is in a position where its interest rates, I've mentioned this several times, its interest rates on its debt, it's more complex than this, but this is simplifying it for you guys. Its interest rates on its debt are higher than other automakers. Why? Because if your debt is rated at junk, you have to pay a higher interest rate. That's just the same across every industry. You want to go for a home loan, the bank they'll look at you and say, you want to go get a loan for your house? They'll look at you and they'll say, okay, what risk are you? Okay, your low risk will give you the best interest rate. Your high risk, the rates will be higher. That's the problem that Nissan are in, and this is not going to get any better. So Nissan is cutting production in the US in a move that will impact output of the Frontier and the Nissan Rogue. The Rogue is meant to be this popular car in the US, but sales have fallen drastically. It's been revealed that US output will be reduced by 17% compared with a year earlier as Nissan is dealing with declining global sales. The cuts will impact the Canton assembly plant, which handles production of the Frontier pickup truck and other models, while also affecting the Smyrna factory in Tennessee, where the Rogue is built. These two models account for roughly 30% of the brand's total US sales. This actually reminds me a lot of what's happened in China, because in China, the Nissan Sylphy, a couple of years ago, the Nissan Sylphy was the best-selling car for, I think, 3 years in a row. When you look at the Nissan Sylphy, it is just this really unimpressive sedan. But it was affordable, and Nissan sold lots of them. That's no longer even in the top 10 sellers in China. And that happened within the space of 12 months. It happens fast. Nikkei Asia reported the decision to cut production through to the end of March comes after a decision was already made to slow production at the two sites through the end of December, reducing work from 5 days a week to 4. Nissan says it's evaluating production forecasts to better meet market trends and demand for its models. In other words, there's too many of these cars made sitting in parking lots. Nissan has to pay for that, and it doesn't make sense. This comes on the back of a new factory, an old factory in Spain, being taken over by Chinese car company Chery. Chery began manufacturing vehicles at that plant, which was formerly owned by Nissan. Word of these production cuts comes at a bad time for Nissan. It recently revealed it's cutting 9,000 jobs globally, plus it then actually fired another 1,000 in Thailand and another 1,000 in the United States, and it's reducing its total output worldwide by 20% due to slow sales and reduced profit forecast. Nissan is making a loss. It's got a lot of debt, it's making a loss, and its factories are not producing vehicles that people actually really want. Now, last week the brand said it is cutting 1,000 employees. Apparently they'll accept early retirement offers. And yeah, that's pretty significant because the United States is a big market for Nissan. Just days ago, fears about Nissan's future were heightened, says Car Scoops, after two unnamed senior officials suggested the brand has only 12 or 14 months to survive, unless it finds an anchor investor. Now, what kind of anchor investor would want Nissan? Nissan also sold its shares in Mitsubishi, 150 million shares, but that's not enough to secure its financial future. Honestly, the company to me right now is looking a lot like BlackBerry. Others believe that Carlos Ghosn was right. Now, Carlos Ghosn believes that this new joint venture between Honda and Nissan to manufacture EVs is actually a kind of a quiet, hostile takeover that Honda plans on taking over Nissan. I honestly don't believe that would be a good strategy for Honda or Nissan or anyone, to be honest. That's just like, that's the same thing as saying that Nissan is going to purchase Fisker. It's two bad companies. Honestly, Honda's future, I believe, is in the same situation. They're just not as bad. They're sort of a couple of years behind Nissan. But give it a few more years and Honda, the same thing will play out for them as well. I've been saying for years now that Nissan was the most at-risk car company in Japan and potentially globally for bankruptcy. Honestly, a lot of people thought I was crazy. Nissan bankrupt? Why? That's ridiculous, they said. And honestly, it's all coming true now. We have the facts, here are the numbers, and here's why Nissan is in a crisis and why the most likely scenario for Nissan within the next 2 years is in fact bankruptcy. This is not hyperbolic whatsoever. Here is exactly what's about to hit Nissan in 2025. It's way worse than people realize because it's a very complex scenario. Nissan's debt is rated at junk, and that's why the company is in big trouble. Now, Nissan's CEO has just admitted to this fact. He's admitted that the company basically faked its sales numbers. They basically admitted that they enormously exaggerated how many vehicles they would sell this year. They also admitted that their actual profits will be 70% lower than expected. In fact, Nissan's profits over the last 3 months were not profits at all. They lost more than $100 million. They have an enormous amount of debt and will likely be incapable of paying that debt back within 12 to 18 months. Hello, my friends. Welcome to the channel. I'm Sam Evans. You're watching the Electric Viking. Great to have you with us. Now let's get straight into this information here because Nissan have revealed some information right within the last 24 hours that shows everything is getting, well, really, really bad. Now, Nissan did say last week that they would fire around 10,000 employees. They also admitted that the company was in trouble. In fact, Nissan said that the company's sales forecasts were overly ambitious, must be adjusted, and that Nissan's executives are taking a pay cut of 50%. 50% pay reduction. That's enormous.